All right, so here we are at the AWS Bedrock console. Now, first of all, what is Amazon Bedrock? So, Amazon Bedrock is the easiest way for you to build and scale your generative AI applications. And how they differentiate themselves is they provide a list of different industry leading models, as you see here, from different industry leading model providers that you can use to build your GenAI application. So it's not just one model, you can use any of these models to build your GenAI application. Now, if you click on any of these model provider, you will get the list of model that is supported. So currently the model providers we have AI 21 Lab, Amazon has their own models like Titan models, Anthropic, which is very, very popular. Some of the Anthropic's models, we have Cohere, Meta, Llama models, Mistral, and Stability AI. That's the model that can help you with image generation, creation of art, and things like that. Okay, so if you go into any of the model provider here, you can go down and you can actually look at all of the models that are available. So here, like Claude 2 family, then Claude 3 launched. So we have Claude 3, Haiku, and Sonnet, and 3.5 Sonnet also launched actually. So what we can do is we can actually go to Claude and look at some of these models that Claude provides. So, so their latest model was Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So let me actually show you this. So if you look at the Claude 3 family, so there was 3 models before that was launched as part of the Claude 3. Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. So Haiku being their fastest model and the most frugal as well. As you can see, it is the least expensive as well. But it is also not the most intelligent model in this category. Then in the middle, we had the Claude 3 Sonnet, which was again in the sweet spot between the intelligence and the cost, and between Haiku and Opus. Then we had Claude 3 Opus, which is kind of a powerhouse, so really most intelligent model that Claude has that time, and it is also the most expensive one as well. Now, recently they launched Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which was, again, if you look at it, it is much more faster than Opus because it is actually Claude 3.5 and it's a Sonnet family, but it also more accurate and it is also much cheaper. So it's cheaper, it is more intelligent, it is much faster. So at this point, I don't know if there is any use case for Claude 3 Opus because everyone who has access should use 3.5 Sonnet, and this is available in Amazon Bedrock as well. So you can request access for this one and you can start using it as well. And they have some benchmark actually listed here as well, where they compares Claude 3.5 Sonnet model with other industry leading models, including their Opus, GPT-4o, Gemini 1.5 Pro, and Llama 400 billion model as well. And if you compare this, you can see actually some of the benchmark Claude 3.5 Sonnet is leading. And again, it's done by them, so take it with a grain of salt. But state of the art vision, so also Claude 3.5 Sonnet does really, really well with understanding the images and extracting the data from the images. So it's a multi-model, and they actually improved a lot of vision capabilities from Claude 3 to Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And you can see some of the improvements as part of their testing and benchmarks as well. So yeah, amazing models. There are new models coming from Claude 3, which is Claude 3.5 Opus. We can expect it sometime. I think it should be here. Yeah. So we will be releasing Claude 3.5 Haiku and 3.5 Opus later this year. Just point to note is not for all of the use cases you need Opus or 3.5 Sonnet. As you can see, Claude 3 Haiku is super fast and it can actually goes through the input tokens really, really fast as well. So basically, this Cloud 3 Haiku is very good in smaller use cases where you don't need a very powerful intelligent model. Let's say if you're building a chatbot or you're just doing summarization, extractions, Q&A and things like that, where you don't have to be really logical and think through step by step. So in those cases, you might be better off using Cloud 3 Haiku or any other model like Llama, smaller models, right? So make sure to compare that rather than using the most powerful model every time. So that way you can actually save a lot of cost. Okay, so let's come back to the Amazon Bedrock console now. So here you can see all of the providers here that we saw here. Just below that, we have the playground. Okay, so there are a few other things on the foundational models. You can see custom model and imported model. So these are two new functionalities. So custom model basically means if any of the model that you have is not working for you and you want to actually modify that model, right? So either you can continually pre-train your model or you can fine-tune your model based on your data, then you can use this particular functionality. So let's say if you're working and building a solution that uses a lot of law terms, and generally these LLMs which are trained on public data, they don't understand these lingos, right? Whether it's law or financial sector or it's healthcare, right? So if you want it to adapt to those lingos, you can do it two ways. Either you can do fine tuning or continue pre-training. So let me actually very quickly show you what does it mean. So if you go to custom model, you can either create a fine-tuning job or continue pre-training job. So if you create a fine-tuning job and select a model, and there are only few models providers are actually supported right now. So it's Titan models, Amazon's, Cohere and Meta only. So, and Haiku, I think they just released in yesterday in New York Summit. So Haiku will be coming soon here as well. Okay, so you choose a model and then you had to provide the data. So you had to provide the data, and if you look at the example, and if you go down, you can see what kind of data you can provide. So you can, in this particular case, we are giving the label data, right? So we are giving examples, we are giving the prompt, and we are also giving the what is the expected completion result answer is. So here is an example giving prompt is what is AWS, completion it's an Amazon Web Services. So you have to provide these kind of examples for it to learn. Now, in case of continued pre-training, you don't give examples, you don't give training data, you just give input text. And in that case, the model will automatically adapt and learn. Okay. So here you can say input AWS stand for Amazon Web Services, and you want the model to learn about this, right? So in case of fintech or healthcare, you will have your own lingos and languages that you will put it here as part of the input. Okay. So you can use any of these. Let's go back. So you can create a fine-tuning job, and that way you will actually modify your custom model. So anyway, so you can do customization two ways, as I said, either fine-tuning or continued pre-tuning. And once your model is ready, you can use that model to actually build your GenAI application as well. There is another new functionality, which is kind of right now still in preview. It's like imported models. So let's say none of the models that you have is working for you, and you decided to use something like a Hugging Face model from SageMaker. So you can train your Hugging Face model in SageMaker with your custom data. And once it is ready, you can actually import that model into here. And you can use that model as part of Amazon Bedrock as well. It's currently in preview, so you're not going to go and look into this. Once it is GA, we can actually circle back and see how it works. But let's move on to the playground now. So playground is just, as the name suggests, it's for you to give it a try, how things work. You can select a model. Let's say we go with Haiku here, and you can play around. So you can ask questions. Let's see who is the best chess player in the world, and it comes up with few names, right? Magnus Carlsen, Jan Cariona, and Ali Firuza, Jan Apovachi, and few more. So it just gives you the answer. Okay, so one more thing you can do is actually, rather than just asking questions, you can also upload your own documents. So let's say if you have any document on which you want to do summarization or ask Q&A, then you can upload those files here. And you can ask questions from that file as well, directly from the chat playground. So something more similar what you can do through some of the chatbots that are available outside. There's also text playground and image playground which is available. So for example, in image, you can go and say stability AI. Okay, so let's see, we say create an image of sunset, car, and a bike. It's weird, but let's see what it does. And there on the right hand side, there are some parameters that you can change, right? For example, prompt strength, you can have a higher prompt strength, so it will give more um, weight to the prompt, and based on that it will generate. And also generation step you can increase, so that way it will take more time to generate and have the details right as well. So you can play around with it. It's pretty cool actually. I have generated some nice images using that. Okay, so there are a couple of other features that Amazon Bedrock provides right from the console, and I think these are very important. So one is the guardrail. So guardrail will help you actually to safeguard your GenAI applications against several different things. For example, toxic language, hate speech, or leaking your prompt or customer personal informations. So all of that you can set up the filters against this. You can set up block. You can block some topics or the words that you want, so that your prompt or your application is not leaking any of those things. So I think it's very important and really nice feature actually to look into. So what we can do is we can build a kind of a example guardrail and see how it works. There's also water detection that we'll discuss next. So let's go with the guardrail first. Um, hi. And let's use the same description, and you can choose what the model response would be in cases when it actually finds that there is a guardrail that's you are hitting. So it can simply say, sorry, the model cannot answer the question, or if anything else you would like to add. You can also customize this and encrypt this, right? So your data is encrypted by default right now, but it is using AWS own and managed keys. So if you want your own keys, you can actually do that as well. And you can add some text. Let's go next. Now, there are multiple ways you can safeguard and different levers basically. So let's say harmful categories. So if you enable this, there is hate, insult, sexual violence, and misconduct. So you can basically choose how aggressive the model would be in actually not responding to any of this, right? So you can actually choose that strength, and currently it's high. So let's keep it that way. And then prompt attacks. So enable to detect and block user input attempting to override system instructions. So sometimes it happens. Basically, the user can trick your LLM to leak your system prompts, right? So to have the protection against that, you can also enable the prompt attack filter with the same aggressiveness that you would like. Okay, so one more thing to note here is if you are using an invoke model or invoke model response stream, then you will use the input tag to apply the prompt attack filters, right? But Amazon Bedrock also launched the Converse API, which is the latest one, and Converse API Stream API. In that one, input tags are not required. So we'll look into what these two APIs are towards the end of the section. Okay, so let's go next. Add a denied topics. You can add the name of the topic. So maybe let's say politics. Let's say sports. I don't want the sports, but say do not talk about sports like cricket soccer, skateboard, etc. Okay, you can add some example, like let's say who is the best player basketball player of all time. So we don't want it to respond to these kind of questions. Okay, so it does have this on the right topic now. You can add more topics if you would like. Let's go next. Now you can also add profanity filters, right? So you can just click on this and it will enable the profanity filters, won't use any of those profanity words that's out there. You can also add custom phrases and words like that you want it to avoid. Okay, and you can upload it as part of the local file or from S3. Do all of that. You can add your own word and phrase, not doing any of that here. Sensitive information, what you want it to not respond. So you can add the PII information. For example, you can say name and you can choose whether you want to block it or mask it. So say name mask it, and you can add something else like driver ID. Basically, you can say, let's say, block it. So is there age, ask it, set one more. Anyway, it doesn't matter actually. So you can add these kind of patterns so it is not leaking any of the information through the application. And you can also add the regex patterns here. So you can build your own patterns. You can say, hey, don't give the ID out, or in this particular format, don't give any of these things. Okay, so these are a couple of new options which are optional. Basically, one is the grounding. So what is that saying is validate if the model's response are grounded and factually correct based on the information provided in the reference source. I think this is something they launched yesterday where they are actually checking for the hallucination as well and making sure that it will also reduce the hallucination. So why don't we go ahead and just do this thing. Okay, so blocks nothing, blocks everything. You need to see how aggressive you want to be and enable the relevance check also. So you want to make sure that it is giving the relevant answers. And again, so let's add both of these, review and create the guardrail. So now our guardrail is created. Let's test it out. So let's ask about this sport only. Who is the best? Let's ask tennis. We didn't mention tennis in there. Tennis player of all time. We have to put it in the prompt to select the model. Let's see this Anthropic Echo. And let's run it. So the response comes back with the model cannot answer this question, and you can see this is guardrail which intervened, and you can look at the trace as well that detected a sport topic and guardrail behavior was to block it. So it's really great to actually use this, have this feature, and good to see that Amazon is actually spending more and more innovation around it, having the hallucination as well as part of this. Okay, so this is great. Look at it if you would like to use it as part of your application. So watermark detection is another feature where you can actually upload an image here and it will tell you whether the watermark is detected or not, right? So if you build an image using any of these LLMs, and many of these LLMs actually now have this watermark as part of the image when they are generating the image. So you can add that and analyze it, and it will tell you whether the watermark is detected and what is the confidence score that it knows for sure if the watermark is detected or not. So you can play around, use the same like talked about. You can use the same image that you generated through the image playground and add it in the watermark. It will give you 100% score that it is definitely detected a watermark and it is AI generated image. All right, so let's leave it at this. Something you can play around on your own. There are a few very, very important things as well that I wanted to talk about, but not in this video because it is very important features. One is knowledge bases and another one is agents. So both of these plays a critical role when you are building generative AI applications and deserves a proper 30-40 minute session. So we'll do it next time. And these two are again the new features that came in yesterday. So they launched it in New York Summit actually. So we'll look into this as well later on. Finally, I wanted to talk about the cost. So there are two ways you can actually choose the cost. One is like on demand. So you can use on demand as you're using the model on demand, you will be paying for it. But once, and that's good for the POCs or when you're trying things, experimenting with it. But when you're ready to actually go and deploy in production, it's definitely worth it to actually look into the purchase throughput. So in the purchase throughput, you can go and for my model XYZ, okay? And I can select a model, let's say same Anthropic. I am purchasing throughput for Haiku. Now this is a context length. It will tell you how much context length that you would like, 48K or 200K. Surprisingly, there's no difference in the price between these two. So let's choose the 200K here. And you can choose the commitment of 1 month, 6 months. So let's go with 1 month and you get one model unit. So this is what you will be paying for one model unit, $80 per hour. This is going to be your daily cost and this is going to be your estimated monthly cost, which is $58,000. So yeah, definitely use it only for the production. As you can see, the cost is high, right? And this is Haiku. This is the cheapest, one of the cheapest model in Claude 3 family. So again, if you are using from multiple different applications, you're using this, you can definitely use it. One thing that you can actually look into the limits of model, but one thing that is not very clear is what this model unit supports, each model unit. So this is something in the AWS documentation. You can see that there is a limited throughput that this support, but it probably depends on different models, but that information exactly is not out there. So use this if you are building production deployment provision throughput, and it does not only give you the provision throughput, it also gives you the dedicated compute under the hood. So that's another thing, that you get a dedicated compute rather than a shared compute as part of on demand. So definitely makes sense to actually add that as well. Okay, so that's about the cost. Let's talk about how do we use Bedrock API. So here I have this Jupyter notebook, and there are two different APIs. One is the Invoke APIs that Bedrock was using before, and they recently launched the Converse API as well. So the Invoke API was good, but there was some issues with it. Like if you're using it with different models, you might have to change the inference parameters based on the models, add different parameters, and so on. So all of that, they are trying to standardize it using the new Converse API. So all of that is standard, and with any of the models, you can use it with the same inference parameters. It also added some functionality of function callings and tool usage through different model providers. For example, Anthropic function calling you can do directly from the Converse API. So does make sense to use Converse API, but let's look into this very quickly. What you can do, we have here Bodo 3, and we are just listing all the models that we have available here. So you get this information. You have Amazon Titan, TG Last, Amazon Titan image generator. So there are multiple Titan models here, you can see. And we have staple diffusions, Claude models, so on. So you can get the details that you want using this. Now in the next section, I am using Invoke API. So if you look into this, this is an Invoke API that I'm using. And for the invoke API, you need to pass the schema in this format. So you have this body that you'll need to create with the input text, which is kind of a prompt. And the prompt is, I'm asking describe the purpose of a hello world program in one line. Okay. And model ID. So this is the model basically that you're using. So here we have Titan Text Express v1. And we are actually initiating this Bedrock client. Now, just you need to convert these requests to JSON, and when you invoke the model, you can pass two things. One is the model ID, and one is the request that you converted this. So basically, it contains the input text and some of these inference parameters. So this is all going to be standard in Converse API. So if you run this one, it will basically give you hello world program is basic program that prints hello world to the console, right? So that's the invoke API. And if you would like the Converse API, so there is a little bit difference in the way that you pass the input to the Converse API. So the model ID remains same, the proto client obviously remains same. Now the message is actually as part of the conversation. So if you're aware of Anthropic, it looks very, very similar to role and content. So role is user, content is text, and the user message goes here. So user message or the prompt is like describe the purpose of the hello world program in one line. We take the prompt as part of the content. Okay. And then we pass model ID, and we also pass this conversation as part of the message rather than body. And we don't need to, obviously it is anyway, it's part of this JSON format. So you just pass it on. And then you have this standard parameters that you can use it with any model. So even if you change the model, you'll not throw any error or anything like that. So run that, and it gives you the reply back as well. All right, so that's all I had for today. And in the next video, we will look into some more functionality around Amazon Bedrock agents and knowledge bases, which are really crucial for you to build GenAI applications. Especially agentic workflows are very, very important. Okay, thanks a lot for watching.